right, everybody. Welcome back to the ATB NFL Live Show. We're at full strength this week, welcoming Tony back here after he had a bit of a rough morning last Saturday. So we're glad to see him back. Zach and I held down the fort, but we had to have somebody here to especially go against most of the things I say. No, I'm just kidding. But big slate this week. Obviously, we're getting farther into the season, starting to learn more about a lot of these teams, and we're gonna have a hefty, interesting game category. Whereas we've kind of had mostly an even split between like must see, meh games, all that stuff. The interesting games are starting to take over more because there's a lot of things to be watching for. A lot of teams that have either started off a little better than we thought, a little worse than we thought. So want to see more for those teams, see what they're about for sure. So let's just get get things kicked off. We'll talk about the Thursday night game a little bit because we obviously don't cover that game typically. So Lions go into Lambeau and beat the Packers. The score was probably a little bit worse than it actually was realistically. Had some turnovers, had the one penalty on Quay Walker that led to basically a free touchdown for the Lions. But overall, pretty sound win by the Lions going on the road. Now 3-1 and leading the division. What do you guys think? Start with Tony here.
Yeah, the Lions have just been everything they were billed to be going into the season. And it hasn't always looked pretty getting there, but they are very, very, very close to being 4-0. Think about the Seattle overtime loss there.
Yeah.
This is a good team, great players all across the board, and they play to who they are very, very well. I think their coordinators really understand their personnel and use it wisely, and so I think this game, like you said, like the 14-point win, it didn't always feel that big of a gap, but it also never really felt close.
Not really.
The Packers felt like a team that was just a step or two behind in understanding who they are, which makes sense with where Jordan Love is at. But the Lions really, really feel like they are well ahead of the pack in the NFC North, and they feel like a true NFC contender now. Starting to think about, like, this isn't a team that we're getting excited to see play in a playoff game for the first time in a while. This is a team that we're excited to see win their first playoff game in a really long time and potentially win multiple playoff games. So really excited for the Lions coming out of Thursday night.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with a lot of that there. Well, one thing I do want to talk about here in a minute, but what do you think, Zach, about that?
I guess the only thing I would push back on is I did not feel like the score said anything like misleading about the game. Lions owned this game from the moment they snapped the ball. I mean, they went down on the second or third drive and went down 3-0, but then they scored 27 unanswered points. And like, it wasn't really like at a point where I was like, oh, this is getting close, until Green Bay scored their second touchdown in the fourth quarter. Like their second overall touchdown, not their last touchdown they only scored one touchdown in the fourth quarter. Yeah. That's right, because they kicked the field goal. But no, it's very interesting because one thing I'm noticing, not necessarily about the Lions, but about the Packers, is they're a very heavy second half team. And they're also like with who Jordan Love is right now. And it was awesome to see him come back with that win in week 3 against the Saints. But getting down in a hole, especially against a team that can score like the Lions, that was the one thing that I said in a lot of my preview for all my stuff that I wrote last week or this past week was, can the Packers keep up with the Lions offense? And that at the end of the day, they couldn't do that. They got in a hole way too early, and the second half resurgence that they've been showing this season doesn't necessarily, you can't always dig yourself out of the hole.
I think. Oh, sorry. I just wanted to say, because what you just said there with the Packers, I understand why they try to trade for Jonathan Taylor now, because, man, they need that run game to really work. And with Aaron Jones banged up and A.J. Dillon just being terrible, I understand.
That's kind of my thing, is I think like these teams are probably closer to each other than that game suggests, especially considering how much the Packers rely on Aaron Jones in the running game and what he does as receiver too. I would be interested to see what that game would have looked like if Aaron Jones was actually like full go. I think that would have given them a chance to stick
Christian
with them
Watson too.
early. Yeah, because Watson had the touchdown, but he didn't really do a whole lot, and you could tell he's not 100%. I did go on the betting pod for ATB this week and had Christian Watson
around the book
touchdown. So around the book. So I did.
Yeah, I chose Dobbs and was upset.
Yeah, he had a good game, just not a touchdown.
I mean, he had a great game, just not a touchdown. Exactly.
Yeah,
That's what I
exactly.
bet on.
Yeah, right. But no,
and I swear, Jordan Love, please start passing 2 touchdowns. I hate taking your 1.5 over touchdown prop, and then you rush one in and it doesn't count.
Did it week one? No, so it was against the Bears. I guess that barely counts, but we'll get to them later. The point being is that I think when it comes to the Packers, like I like what they're doing so far. I think Love has played relatively well overall throughout the season so far through 4 games. It's just you could tell that you said a second half team, they have to fill things out offensively, right? That's definitely where they're at with it right now, which makes sense. Again, the receivers have been in and out, and you don't have a whole lot going for you in terms of veteran talent there outside of Aaron Jones, who again hasn't been playing a lot.
I mean,
so
their yards were pretty like here and there in the first half, and then in the second half, when Love is throwing passes to Samori Toure, is that how you say
Samori Toure, yeah.
Toure and Josiah DeGara, like maybe we've waited to feel the offense out just a little too long, and you should have been letting some of these rip to Watson and Dobbs.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think the one thing I wanted to mention too is like a lot of people have been talking about the Lions draft class and how well the players from the draft class have been playing overall, and also some conversations about Jahmyr Gibbs. And if you're an NFL fan, you're like, oh, they're using him. Okay. If you're a fantasy fan, you hate everything and your life sucks right now. So it's kind of a mixed bag there. But I think their draft class, I was never expecting it to be bad, right? Like when we talked about it, it was never a question of, is this a good draft class? It was, is this a draft class that's going to push them farther towards a Super Bowl, not just a playoff berth, right? And I think there's still going to be questions about that, but obviously we're 4 games into the rookie class. But they've gotten the contributions that they needed to make that next push, I think, to get to be a playoff team from their draft class. You know, Brian Branch was unbelievable last night or on Thursday night.
Laporte is going to set every rookie tight end record.
Laporte is playing out of his mind right now.
Yeah, he's
so
awesome,
good.
Right? And I did like him a lot, but I didn't expect, again, rookie tight ends. It's hard to expect a lot from them. But yeah, he's been a great.
Who'd have thunk the second round draft picks would be outplaying the first round draft picks?
I mean, I mean, Branch was a great steal.
Target competition. Oh, do you mean for the Lions? I thought for tight ends.
No, specifically for the Lions.
Yes,
that Laporta and Branch would be outplaying Gibbs and Campbell.
Yeah,
Campbell. That is surprising. Campbell, I think, has been good. It's just that you don't hear about linebackers all that much unless they're doing spectacular things.
Exactly, yeah, and that's kind of the question with Campbell. We'll see. But again, I think the Lions are certainly the best team in the NFC North right now. I do think that because of the strong start they've had, they've been a team that's started very poorly under Dan Campbell. You assume that just because they start strong, I doubt they're going to suddenly have the opposite happen where they do a Cardinals and start 8-1 and then fall off the back half of the year. So I think they have a really strong chance of finishing this out, especially with the way the Vikings, the Bears are playing. It's really just the Packers, and getting a home win or a road win against the Packers is going to be huge for that division later on. So, but moving on to our games, we're going to start with the Mag games, of course, like we always do. First one up I have, and I wanted to put this in interesting, but I just have seen 3 games of it from both these teams, and I just don't think much is going to change right now, at least for either team. Bengals and Titans. I mean, you can just tell the Bengals just don't have it offensively right now. There's a multitude of reasons for that, but it's just not pretty to watch, right? Like the run game has been meh for the most part. Burrow just still can't quite get it going, doesn't quite look the same, and we know it's probably the calf and other things. T. Higgins is just he's killing me personally in my fantasy team. I can't stand it. It's pissing me off, honestly. I'm like, I picked you despite being a Steelers fan. You're screwing me over. It figures. Not going to get into that. But the Bengals offense is just tough to watch right now. And then the Titans, I mean, they've had a rough start to the season in terms of defenses played. But, gosh, I mean, the Browns really put them through the woodshed last week. It was really rough to watch that game. I did watch it back a little bit because I wanted to know, and it was just tough to watch. What do you think, Tony?
Yeah, so everybody's going to look terrible against the Browns defense this year.
They're pretty crazy.
But the Titans also have looked terrible against everybody they've played. So that offense is in a really bad place. The Bengals offense is also in a really bad place for very different reasons.
Exactly.
Yeah. I would recommend to everybody to go to theringer.com and read Stephen Ruiz's piece on the Bengals offense and the multitude of reasons that it's failing right now. But it really comes down to Joe Burrow cannot be playing on this calf. You can see it. He's not following through on his throws. He's changing his throwing motion now. He's not able to protect himself when he's taking hits in the pocket that this is a very dysfunctional offense, and I understand when he's saying like, yeah, it's a risk every time I go out there, but we were also at a risk of going 0-3.
Yeah.
But I'd argue you're not really doing anything to elevate the offense anyways. You're still incurring that risk, and that risk is not just, oh no, I might tweak it again and lose 5 games and tank our season. It's, oh no, this could turn into an Achilles. We saw that with Aaron Rodgers' offseason calf injury turning into an Achilles. We know that it could turn into a knee injury when you're immobile in the pocket and unable to protect yourself. So he just shouldn't be out there playing because he's not giving benefits to the offense anyways, regardless. Their schedule, they have the Titans, they have the Cardinals, they have the Seahawks, and then a bye. Like, just get to the bye, survive, and then hit the tough part of your schedule with a healthy Joe Burrow. They're not going to do that, so I don't think the long-term success of this team is pointing in an upward direction right now. But for this game specifically, I think they'll be just fine because it doesn't take 2 legs to pass all over the Titans' pass funnel defense. So Joe Burrow on 1 leg. I think we're going to see Jamar Chase's best game of the season so far. Not saying much, but it's finally going to happen. And give me the Bengals winning this one, but also just give me Burrow on the bench if this team is serious about postseason success.
What do you think, Zach?
Yeah, no, I like Jamar Chase himself said before last week's game, like, no, if he's not 100%, he shouldn't be playing. And I mean, it's like Tony said, it's evident, like he doesn't have the same, he's not able to do the same things. And all he has to do is, if he ends up playing on tomorrow, is look across the field and has a great example of another quarterback who tried to push through an injury and then absolutely destroyed a part of his career in Ryan Tannehill, who is also having a horrific season. So thankfully for the Bengals, you might be having a bad offensive time so far, but you're going up against an offense who's had an equally bad offensive time. So I would definitely say that the Bengals have many more pieces than the Titans, so they should have just a okay time of getting by and finding a way to win. But again, what is it going to come at the cost of? Should it come at the cost of, oh no, Jake Browning or AJ McCarron should be starting this week and Joe Burrow should be on the bench? Because I still think they would have a chance to win. And especially the bigger concern now is, yeah, you're probably going to be able to pass, but is his offensive line going to be able to hold up against a ferocious front seven that the Tennessee Titans do have?
I think the thing that I want to bring up with this game, and you guys have already touched on it, but this is why, and I've always felt this way, and it's not as easy as obviously me saying it, but when you have a truly elite quarterback and you don't have a backup who you feel you can go to if they are banged up, that can really be a detriment to your team because clearly they do not have enough confidence in Jake Browning, and that's why they brought in AJ McCarron now too. They don't have confidence in him to be able to win a game with this core. And I think with all the offensive talent they have and the defense playing relatively well, if you don't have a backup who you think, okay, you know what, they can go beat the Titans, they can go beat the Rams last week, that's just a bad place to put yourself because Burrow clearly needs to rest. He clearly needs time to get back to himself. And the thing that really frustrates me is, as someone who's watched Burrow for a long time now, and I was a huge fan of his at LSU, obviously even before his breakout season, I liked a lot of the stuff he showed. His best attribute is his ability to work under pressure and to get the ball out as a playmaker quarterback type. Like when he can make plays from in and out of the pocket effectively, that's why he's as good as he is. When he's playing the way he is now, it's limiting because now the play call is more to do with anything and less about Joe Burrow. And we know that Zach Taylor is not an elite play caller, right? Like that's something we know at this point. Burrow makes that offense as good as it is because of his ability to do that stuff. Without it, how much better is he than the backups they have? Still better, obviously. They would go to them if they thought differently. But it's just frustrating, right? Because you don't want to see him waste away his season trying to just be 80% out there every game. But it seems like that's the path they're going down because they don't want to have the opportunity to forfeit the season by him not playing. Overall, I'm going to still take the Bengals. Like you guys said, I'm going to probably like 17-10, something along. Like I don't think there's going to be a lot of points. Obviously,
yeah, I think that, like Tony said, the pass funneling of the Titans defense. I definitely think this can be a week where the Bengals finally get something going offensively. But again, it's like a situational thing. Like it's not like this team has figured things out. They just had a good matchup.
Right.
Like,
I think it's possible. I can't see a lot of points being scored in this game by the team. I think it's going to be one of those games. It's just they get enough points, third quarter, and they just kind of drag things out till the end. That's kind of how I feel about it. But did you guys give scores? I don't know if you wanted to throw scores out.
I'll do 24-13 Bengals.
Okay,
I was
fair
gonna say
enough.
24-10.
Yeah, sounds good. Yeah,
All
similar.
right.
Yeah, same idea. Yeah. Moving on to Vikings Panthers.
The first 0-3 bowl.
Yeah, we'll talk about another one later.
Oh yeah, later.
But uh, yeah, the Vikings have to win this game, right? Like, there's no way they can.
Absolutely.
If they have to, because if they don't, and I already feel like it's probably worthwhile in the long run to do this, but like if they don't win this game, you have to start selling off some pieces, like because it's over. It already probably is, but you cannot go 0-4 and then just let this team sit the way it is, because you have assets that you can move that aren't going to be helpful to you this year or probably the year after. And I know there probably won't. It just feels like that's not what NFL teams do, whether it makes sense or not. But this is a must win in every way possible for this Vikings team, I would imagine. What do you think, Tony?
I completely agree. This is the Vikings aren't as bad as their record is. Just
They
like
aren't.
last year, they weren't
Right,
as
they're
good
not
as
as
their
good.
record
They are
was.
very similar caliber team, I think, still. Honestly.
Yeah, they are a firmly mediocre team that has caught the bad side of variance every step of the way so far. The luck will turn, and they are a better team than the Panthers. I think that's important. They're not a good team, but they are a better team than the Panthers, and so they do need to win this one because of exactly what you said. Like, it's not like they're competing for a Super Bowl this year. It's not like Kevin O'Connell's on the hot seat or anything.
No,
but they have some veteran pieces that would be very lucrative in trade deals mid-season, and they need to know if it's worth throwing in the towel or worth chasing this season. I think from the jump it's not worth chasing this season, but teams act differently when they're in the job. So like Kirk Cousins, is he a trade candidate? I have a soapbox for this, but it's half baked, and I know we're on a tight schedule today, so I'm not going to bring. I'm going to hope to get to that one next week, but like I see. Soapbox next week. There's your tease, everybody. Tune in next week. But like Danielle Hunter, like he's a guy who could potentially go. So this game matters a ton to them. And for the Panthers, you just hope that Bryce Young learned something from watching how Andy Dalton operated the offense. I shared the meme last week in my absence. But it's just. NFL Open isn't college open, and Andy Dalton, I think, put that on tape for Bryce Young to see in the offense that he'll be operating in. So I hope to see improvement out of Bryce Young, but I expect to see a big win out of the Vikings. I'm going to say like 31-20.
Fair enough. What do you think, Zach?
I don't know. I'm torn because like I was very, very, very heavy on the Vikings are fakes last season. Me too. And I wouldn't be surprised that this is a game in Charlotte. Somehow they find a way to scrap one out with the home field advantage and get Frank Reich one of his first wins in Carolina. But I could also see how like Minnesota's like we said, they have a lot of those veteran pieces. These are two very, very different teams. You have a very veteran laden team, and then a very young team. And this team chock full of veterans is not going to give up. Like, they're not going to stop. It's going to be like, oh, we do have a shot. We have a window. And you've also got guys like Justin Jefferson and younger players who are fighting for contracts on that squad. And if you tear it up now, that could put their futures in jeopardy. So I do think this is a very make or break game for Minnesota. And I guess, they will win because it's Carolina, and we're going back to Bryce. Well, not like a bad thing. We're going back to Bryce Young. There is the inexperience. There is the differences in what like Dalton was able to do as opposed to what Bryce Young's been able to do. But that's not a bad thing. It's welcome to year one in the NFL. But I don't think it's going to be like that like it's going to be a one score. It's going to be a Minnesota Vikings special 1-score win, baby. I'll go 20-17.
So I think that I'd be more willing to give the Panthers a good shot at this if their defense wasn't banged up so much, right? Because I think that's the key thing. Is Vikings offense is right. Well, there's a bunch of guys that feel like they're going to be out for a while, but for me, mostly it's the fact that the Vikings offense is just, I think, too good against the Panthers defense isn't at full strength for the Panthers offense to offset that. As bad as the Vikings defense is, there's just way more talent on the Viking side right now, right? Like that's just kind of where it is. And ultimately, the Vikings should win this, and they should win it comfortably, realistically. But like Zach said, they tend to not do that in general. So I'm going to say 31-24. Maybe a late touchdown makes it a little bit closer, and then they can't get anything going to figure it out at the end. But yeah, I don't expect anything too crazy there.
I do want to say real quick, because you mentioned the Vikings' putrid defense, and that's a fair assessment. Brian Flores is pushing all of the buttons, though.
He's trying
pushing.
his best.
He's
doing
he's got
everything
like
he can.
See, originally
Super Smash Bros. 64, just smashing every button.
Originally, I was going to point that out, but then in looking at their games, they've actually fared decently against the run. Granted, they didn't have to go against Austin Eckler, and they got demolished by DeAndre Swift. But the Eagles literally said, "No, we're giving DeAndre Swift the ball. We don't care." They did fairly good week 1, but that's if Carolina showed more of a positive passing game, I would be more inclined to. It's the exact opposite for me. If Carolina, if I was more confident in Bryce Young, I'd be like, okay, yeah, this could be an upset. But that's where I'm just like,
yeah, I just don't think they'll score enough points against the Vikings. Like the Vikings is
exactly
just better offense.
So pressing all of the buttons with bad players on defense means that you get diced up by Justin Herbert for 500 yards or whatever it was.
Exactly.
But it also means that a rookie quarterback who has already proven to see the game a little bit slower than he needs to be early in the season, understandably so, but he's going to struggle against a chaos defense.
Yeah,
so
you assume so.
I think
there's a level of that.
it's going to be a credit to them this game, where it could be a problem for them in other games.
Yeah, they're running off of variance right now. That's really what they're trying to do, which I understand. That's kind of where they're at. Raiders Chargers. I just don't want to watch the Raiders play after watching them play against the Steelers. Like they bore me a lot.
You don't want to see Aiden O'Connell or Brian Hoyer.
I mean, if
Aiden
O'Connell's
on the yard,
playing, I might tune in for a minute.
oh, is Jimmy G out again?
I haven't seen if he's
his
actually
first
out,
week.
but he was still in concussion protocol yesterday.
Yeah, this would be his
dang.
first missed game, which we knew was coming eventually. Yeah, if Brian Hoyer's playing.
There was even a chance he wasn't going to be on the team. Remember all that?
Yeah, there was a whole lot about that. But yeah, if Hoyer's starting, no disrespect to Brian Hoyer, Bears legend, best stretch of quarterback play in their franchise maybe ever, if you guys remember that, however many years ago. But yeah, I don't. He doesn't.
What a disservice to Rex Grossman.
Pass.
And Jay Cutler, thank you very much.
Yeah, I just don't. I just pretend Jay Cutler doesn't exist anymore in my mind.
Oh, I can't pretend that Jay Cutler doesn't exist.
Yeah, I know you can. Trust me. I watched that. I didn't want to. But again, if Hoyer's starting, whatever. The Chargers, they should win this. Obviously,
they should.
Will they?
It's just like the Vikings, the Chargers.
Well, see, my thing is, can Quentin Johnston play?
Doesn't matter. Josh Palmer can.
I guess, yeah. I mean, it's going to be enough.
They said this week that they're going to put in like an actual effort into getting him the ball.
That's great to hear about your first round pick. Anyway, yeah. Again, I just don't really care about this game that much. The Chargers should either blow them out or win by 3 points because that's what the Chargers do.
I mean, we also heard that about Jahmyr Gibbs, and they're having their own struggles with that. So
that's I feel like that's self, but whatever. What do you think, Tony, with this game?
Yeah, I definitely agree. The Chargers should win this one. It shouldn't be all that difficult for them either. I don't think their offense takes a massive hit because Mike Williams, he's a really good just ball winner, but he's not a good separator. Like he's not drawing additional coverage down the field on his deep routes. So it's not like schematically the defense is going to change how they play you. And I do think that last year Josh Palmer had to fill in a lot for both of these guys as they were sprinkled with injuries, both Keenan Allen and Mike Williams. I think he's a better Keenan Allen true 1-to-1 replacement, but he can go outside and play the role. And then, Quentin Johnston, they were bringing him along slowly because he's a raw guy. Yes. And now you're just going to have to start throwing him the ball and letting him come into his own a little bit faster than scheduled. But I don't think the passing offense is going to hurt all that much. Like if they had lost Keenan Allen, it would be a completely different story. So
you just hope that Joshua Kelly and Isaiah Spiller do more this week.
I mean, I'm kind of off that train at this point. I feel like that's just what it is, honestly.
Yeah, they've got one game left before Eckler returns.
But
my fantasy team, they're on the bench now. I've given up hope.
Yeah, I mean, as far as a football standpoint, 20 yards from your two running backs is not great.
Yeah,
Hey,
they need
just
to get back to what
air
they
it
were
out.
doing against Miami week 1 because they were able to run the ball well that game.
Yeah.
I think it was because Eckler was on the field opening up running lanes. But
Yeah.
so for a score, I guess I'll do Chargers 23-17. I don't know. This is a game I'm not going to have on my TV.
Gotcha. Yeah. What do you think, Zach? Anything you want to add there?
Nah.
Yeah,
I've said all I need to say. 24-14 Chargers. I'll give them the double-digit win. I will hedge my bets and give them the double-digit win. That's massive.
Nice.
Fair enough.
Oh, also, Tuli Tuipulotu, incredible start to his rookie season.
Yeah.
I was
Big
not
fan.
in on him.
Big fan.
Congrats, Shayne. You were a fan. He's awesome. So I just wanted to call him out.
He's one of the more unique players I evaluated this past cycle because I felt like he was basically a blitzing linebacker, but like also can play edge. It was a weird situation, but he's very good. And they need it because Khalil Mack ain't good no more, guys. I hate to say it to everybody, he ain't so good no more. But at least he's not Chandler Jones, which I decided to not even bring up because I
That's
just makes me
I don't
sad.
even know what's going
makes
on.
me-
I don't
No,
even know.
I don't think
what's
he
going
does
on.
either, honestly. So that's beside the
Yeah,
point.
it sounds like he needs a lot of help. So hopefully
Yeah.
he gets help.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
That's all we'll say about that.
Although I will say I don't think the Raiders are making it any better.
Probably
I mean,
not.
it's the Raiders, so they
tend
cannot
to not do
possibly
that.
be.
Yeah.
There's no shot. I mean, yeah, whatever. I'll take Chargers 28-20. I don't know. The defense will do something stupid. Let them get 20 points. Seahawks, Giants. I only have this in mind because I'm tired of watching the Giants play football.
Poor
honestly.
New York.
Yeah.
Poor
Fair.
New
And no
York is-
slight to the Seahawks at all. Right? I love the Seahawks. Just don't want to watch them this week because I don't want to
Poor
watch
New York.
them.
Could anybody have a worse start to the NFL season than the city of?
I mean, the
New
city
York?
itself is having enough trouble right now, but that's not.
I mean, not
well.
like literally. I mean, yeah, they're being flooded right now, but
They're getting dumped on.
Yeah. But I mean, just like the Jets lost Aaron Rodgers.
We'll
The
get to
Giants
that.
had all of the hype going into the season, and they've completely fallen flat on their face. Their only win is 3 points over a bad Cardinals team that, despite being bad, is attempting to win every single game that they can.
We'll talk about that. We'll talk. About that.
But like, yeah, no, I just can't. I can't imagine being a New York fan right now, a New York football fan. It would be in shambles. Outside of
The
being
only real New York team is doing just fine, right, Tony?
Yeah, that's
you guys
true.
Are right.
That's
the
true.
only real New York team. Anyway, I'll give us some yelled out a little bit. No, what do you think about this one, Tony?
I'm really upset that it's a standalone primetime game that I'm going to have to subject my eyes to. Like, it's just
I hate putting
these two teams.
on this list, but...
Like, I understand why it was a Monday Night Football game. They were the story of last season in the NFC, right? Like,
sure,
both of them were expected to be terrible, both improbable playoff runs out of weird circumstances. Like, this year, the Seahawks appear to be on a very different trajectory than the Giants do, and I think we're going to see that exaggerated on Monday night. I think Kenneth Walker is going to have a field day, and the Giants are just going to really struggle to score. So, give me Seahawks. I don't know, 28-16. Just pulling scores out of my ass at this point.
Yeah, what do you think, Zach?
It's the return of Monday Night Football with Peyton and Eli this week, so that'll be at least.
I'm sure Eli will be really excited.
That's
to
actually
watch his
huge.
team.
That's great.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic.
That's helpful.
They come back. They're not doing it for the double headers, which makes sense.
I couldn't.
Again, the Giants unfortunately are going to run into back-to-back horrific matchups of two teams that can do exactly what they're horrific at, and that's rushing the football, defending the rush. But these two teams, 49ers, what are we talking about? But the Seahawks, I mean, Kenneth Walker's had a great week last week. He's coming back into his own.
Charbonnet threw somebody out the club last week. I saw.
Yeah.
Basically,
yeah.
That was,
He's
always dangerous.
Like I said, poor New York. They're having a tough time. I hope things get better eventually, but not right now because the bigger the more the Jets lose, the better. I love it. But yeah, I'm gonna say Seahawks win 20. No, screw it. 31-14. I'll give them 2 drives.
All right, fair enough. I'm gonna say, should I do something funny? Yeah, I'm gonna 42 to like 17, just for shits and giggles. I think it'd be funny if they get blown out that
70
bad.
points has been hit. Nothing is funny
Right,
anymore.
that's right. I mean, I just think the Seahawks won't need to score that many points.
Oh, no,
they won't.
no.
But whatever.
That sounds like a game
yeah.
I can go to bed at halftime, and I'd really appreciate
Yeah,
that.
there you go. Yeah, something like 28, like 6 or something
Yeah.
weird at halftime. Yeah. Moving to interesting games. Starting with Cardinals 49ers. And this is interesting solely because the Cardinals are trying, folks. They are really giving all their effort. They really tried super hard last week when they whooped the Cowboys for the most part.
Josh Dobbs might not be able to find his jersey in the team store, but he's sure
Nope.
trying to win those games.
Listen, Josh Dobbs being pretty good through 3 games gives me life, solely for the fact that we drafted that man and then did nothing to, make that work at all. But that's beside the point. Ultimately, the Cardinals are trying real damn hard, and I appreciate it because the first 2 games, I was having the sneaking suspicion that like they were trying really hard until they were winning, and then they stopped, kind of thing. Or like the coach was like, we can't win though, like we can't win the games. This past week proves to me that it was just that they just weren't quite ready to win a game against the Giants. They just gave that up. Don't really know how to put teams away right now. But the Cowboys, they just came in. They had, obviously offensive line injuries. The run game and was really working well for them, but the passing game was really spotty. Cardinals defense, like someone's been sharing this one clip around. And I remember watching it during the game. They were just like doing all this crazy like pre-snap kind of like disguising of coverages and like where the linebackers are coming from and all this. Like they're doing everything in their power to make this team work and be competitive, and it's working so far. I mean, they haven't lost a game by more than a score in the first 2 games, and then they go ahead and beat the Cowboys in week 3. I mean, they have better point differential than a lot of 2-1 teams do, right? So like ultimately, it's kind of hard to really say that they're going to get blown out the way that the bettors and like the way that Vegas has a line at 14. I know it's the 49ers, but like, do we really think they're going to be destroyed in this game? I don't know. What do you think, Tony?
It's just turning into a bit that I'm going to lean into full on. Yeah, the Cardinals are winning this game outright. I'm going to continue picking against the 49ers every game of their 17-0 season.
I like
it. This is how it's going to work, all right? But the Cardinals play hard, man, and I have said it every single week. I am waiting for the other shoe to drop on this 49ers team. Brock Purdy still doesn't look good. It's working so well, and he still doesn't look good. And at some point, it's going to fail. And at one day, I'll be right, and I'll celebrate so hard, and I'll just ignore all the losses on the way there. Give me the Cardinals like 21-20.
Oh, heck yeah. Okay, Zach, what do you got?
I so much want to. I want to go with you, Tony, but I can't.
No, it's a terrible idea. I'm only doing it for the bit.
Yeah,
only because like, look, Arizona's great and all, but I don't think they can score 30 points. They've gotten close twice. They've gotten 28 in a row, but literally the 49ers have scored 30 points a game. And
literally every game.
Yeah, every game. I was just looking at it. I was like, oh wow. And like. They didn't do it as like they didn't defend it as well against they defended well against the run last week. But I'm pretty sure Saquon diced them up, if I'm correct. Is that correct?
He didn't play, so
he got 63 yards at touchdown. He got hurt. That's what happened. That's right.
That's the game he got hurt in.
Yeah, that's the game he got hurt
right.
in. Yeah. So I don't know. It's not going to be a bet for Brock Purdy. It's a bet on Kyle Shanahan and the rest of the 49ers offense because, they are a good team in the NFC and Arizona's not. So I'm going to go San Francisco 28-18 because it's going to be a weird score for Arizona.
Yeah, that feels right. I'm going to go 31-23. I think that the Niners will be able to do a lot of what they want to do because the run game is so strong for them. Like the Cardinals have not done a great job against the run in general, and that's kind of where I think you can attack that team because their interior is just squishy. Honestly, they just don't have a lot of guys there. That's the word I went with. That's how I feel about it.
It's so spot on. I never would have come up with it, but it's so spot on.
It's how it is. Like some teams just have that. Like the Chargers felt like 5 years had one. It's just kind of how it is. But I think that they'll be able to stay competitive offensively. I think that what they showed against the Cowboys tells me that they're capable of dealing with, like, obviously an elite pass rusher with Parsons, and obviously Bosa's a different type of player, but still, like, that same idea of, like, how do you handle those types of guys? DJ Humphries has played very well, which is great for them at left tackle. Like, that's really helpful for a guy like Dobbs that hasn't had a lot of starting experience and trying to figure things out. But I think they'll keep it close, though, closer than that 14-point spread would suggest. Chiefs Jets.
They are 3-0 against the spread, so
they are, yes.
Hey.
Which you expect? Again, that's the spread. I'm going to take that. Definitely, if I'm betting, I'm taking the Cardinals plus 14 for sure. Chiefs Jets. This is the Jets' last stand as a football team. I feel like this year, like defensively, especially, like if the defense is going to have to go out and win this game if they want to win it. As they've had to or tried to have to.
The defense is going to have to win every game for them.
That's what I'm saying. It's like this is a game where I feel like if they lose this game, which they will, I think, obviously, right? That's it, right? It doesn't matter if you trade for a quarterback. It doesn't matter if you move to who Trevor Siemian, I think, is on the roster now.
Yep.
Whoever it is, it doesn't matter at this point. Like if you don't find a way to eke this one out somehow, your season's over. Right now, I already think it is anyway because they, once you lose Rodgers and you don't immediately make a move, it was kind of over. But that's part of why it's interesting to me. Like, how much fight does this team have left after these 3 games? Like, what can they get together?
I can give them some respect for attempting to give Zach Wilson a second chance after the offseason and what they saw from the offseason. But then it's week 5. Like, they need to make a move this week to do something more competitive. I can respect them, like, just being like, he's on the team. Maybe he's learned something from Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers is still on the side. Or is he on the sideline? Is he with the team still?
I don't know what he's doing. He's probably in a hut somewhere right now.
So
apparently.
yeah, exactly. I don't.
listening
so like
to Dolphins fucking
fuck.
Yeah. Yeah.
Whatever, man. Whatever works.
But I can give the Jets and Robert Saleh respect for going with Zach Wilson to start. And it's actually not just Trevor Siemian. Tim Boyle currently is the backup.
Good for him.
Yeah.
Good for him.
So I just
Did he have a signature like Hail Mary for the Lions at one point? Why is that the first thing that pops into my head with Tim Boyle? Carry on. I'm going to do some research.
He was a Hard Knocks darling last year. I know that. It was him and David Blau. Yeah, no. I just look, like I said, the state of New York's having it rough this year for at least there's the teams in the city of the state name. Technically the New Jersey teams. I'll take that heat. I don't care. As
I mentioned previously,
Washington, the Commanders are actually Maryland. I'll take that too. Like whatever. But yeah, no. This game is going to be about how many touchdowns the Chiefs can force to Travis Kelce to have the media and commentators just fit in as many Taylor Swift puns as possible because that's all this game is going to be.
I do feel like it's very it's a perfect thing for that to be the biggest story of a game in New York City.
And New York, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Because
they're going to
go nobody cares about the Jets for this game. Like, I don't know if even the Jets fans care about the Jets.
Although the one thing I will say about that is the idea that Taylor Swift put Travis Kelce on the map, and before anybody comes and says Jason Kelce said it, he was obviously giving his brother some flack. This man is a bona fide first ballot Hall of Famer. Don't be acting like people didn't know who he was.
So first off, I think that's a TikTok trend to make men mad.
I know.
Part 2. I mean, okay, so yeah, Travis Kelce is as famous as you can get in the NFL. He is as NFL famous as any player can be. That is like a tenth of the popularity that exists in the Taylor Swift world. He is being exposed to a world that didn't know his name. I think a lot of that is legit.
There are legitimately millions of people who know who he is now who did not know 2 weeks ago.
Well, I mean, that's cool. So, but like,
it's still not worth talking about. Like, obviously, Travis Kelce is famous in his own right. It's just that
exactly.
Like, it's a stupid conversation.
Let everybody stand on their own merits. I don't think anybody, but I guess more of the opposite. I don't think anybody would be like floating the idea of like, oh yeah, see Travis Kelce, this dude, he's awesome, and this is why Taylor Swift is a thing. It's like if anybody had the audacity to be like that, it'd be like, yo, like, are you kidding right now?
Right. Yeah, I get it. But yeah, I'm just going to say the Chiefs win by some amount of points that are above 10. I don't really want to give a score prediction because the Jets defense could surprise me and keep them to a score that's like relatively good, but then the Jets will just still not score anywhere close to that amount of points. Like you could tell me the Chiefs scored 10 points, I might say they still win by 10 points because that's just kind of where it's at. Like the Chiefs defense is really, really good so far through 3 games, and now they obviously have Chris Jones playing the last 2 games. Zach Wilson could die. We may see a man die, and I don't want to see that again. Obviously, we'll talk about your team later. Tony, a player coming back this week, apparently, right? Jordan Poyer.
It's a non-story.
Listen, he's back, right? He's going to be on the field, right? That's what we're seeing. Apparently,
yeah, I know. It's just he's a 5th string safety who's asked to not get the attention. Because
Jordan Poyer is a 5th string safety. I didn't know that.
He's talking Hamlin.
I know exactly. But he said Jordan Poyer, so I was going along with it.
But yes, Hamlin and his camp have asked the media to stop sharing his game status before every game because he's starting to get some very real hate. Despite
it doesn't need to be.
He's a 4th string safety who doesn't play special teams. He's not active unless Jordan Poyer's injured, and he's asked for it to stop being a story because it's hurting his personal life. So I will stop perpetuating the story.
Yeah. Right. Okay. So what did you guys give? Does it matter the scores for this game?
49-10. Yeah. Right, the Chiefs are rolling.
Yeah.
Hey, that's the only amount of points that Zach Wilson scored so far this year. So yeah.
Also, I followed up on the Tim Boyle thing. He threw a Hail Mary at halftime of a game that did not get completed, and then he threw a back-breaking interception to end that game. So that's the Tim Boyle memory I have.
Right. Also, maybe the worst college quarterback of the last 30 years to end up in the NFL in some capacity. If you guys look up his college stats, hilariously bad. Fun to
I have not.
Definitely something to do because it's comically bad how bad his college stats were. Anyway, Patriots Cowboys. This one, I just want to see if the Cowboys offense can get its mojo back a little bit against the defense.
Whoa,
theoretically,
hold on. The Patriots are signing all the former Cowboys to steal their signals.
Yeah, I'm sure it's going to help a lot against Mike McCarthy.
No, actually, like they've literally been talking about because they signed Will Grier last week to their practice squad. Then they have Zeke, and they signed the offseason, and they were literally like, "Yeah, we're a bit concerned that the Patriots are trying to steal our signs." And I'm just like in the back of my head, like, "Cool, change them."
Yeah, that seems
this is Mike McCarthy we're talking about. He's running his 2005 offense.
Those signals haven't changed for 15 years.
Yeah, just go back and watch film. What do we
what?
No, it's a non-story. Yeah, but again, I think this game is very interesting because this is a game I really do feel like could go either way, despite the line being pretty heavy for the Cowboys. Just what they put on tape last week, and then also the fact that Tyron Smith is still going to be out, and the offensive line isn't at full strength. Against a Patriots defense that can make any game close, right? Like that's just kind of what it is.
I guess the Cowboys defense that's played a lot better this year than last year.
Yes, overall. Yeah. So what do you think, Tony, here?
I think last week was an anomaly because the Cowboys didn't play all that terribly. They took the Cardinals' best punches, right? So their offense in the second half entered the red zone 4 times, and I think they didn't have any amount of points to show for it. Maybe I forget the exact.
I think they were one for 4 in the red zone in that time period. Yeah, something like that.
So very improbable run of bad luck there that I think gets cleaned up. I don't think their offensive struggles last all that much. I do think the Patriots defense is going to be able to do some damage with the offensive line injuries, but I think the Cowboys can pull out a win. Probably maybe not cover. I'll go 24-21 Cowboys. I just think that they are as good as we were talking about them going into the Cardinals game, and it was just a bad game for them. So I think they're more the team from before that week than they are the team from last week.
What do you think, Zach?
I guess my question would be, who do you guys think has the better defense, Dallas or New York?
Dallas.
Now, Dallas.
Yeah. Okay.
Although
Diggs being out,
Trayvon Diggs,
it's probably closer. I think that, I think it's a toss up probably.
I feel, I definitely feel like this is going to be one of it's going to be the best defense that the Cowboys have played so far this season. And if last week was any indication, and like you said, it was a bad game, but it's not like you're going up against a random team. You're going up against Bill Belichick and the New England Patriots. I definitely feel like this defense can give the Cowboys some fits offensively, especially if they're worried about this stupid sign thing, which again, change them. But even more so, I think that if like last week wasn't bad for Mac Jones, he's starting to get more and more comfortable in the offense, it looks like, with every week. And I'm just waiting for it 1 week for everything to just finally click. And like obviously you completed 2 passes to Pharaoh Brown for 71 yards, and that was your leading receiver, but that's not going to hold up every week. Like Kendrick Bourne came back from his injury. I definitely think with some like just more snaps every week, more reps, that I think they could pull the upset off this week. And I'll call it 21-20.
Yeah, this one's a toss-up for me. I think that the Patriots offense is good enough to move the ball on this team, and just as long as they're careful about it, because I think that's the key thing, is you have to be very methodical against this Cowboys team, because they want you to try to throw the ball down the field to give Micah Parsons time to come after you. And their secondary has been very strong, even without Diggs. I think it's still a strength for them overall. It's for me, I think that the game is going to come down to really what defense shows out the most. And I still think the Cowboys have the edge there because of who they're playing offensively. I don't think the Patriots offense is nearly as theoretically scary as the Cowboys offense can be, right? Like that's the thing, is it depends on how much McCarthy wants to be conservative versus aggressive. But I think being conservative against the Patriots defense is not a bad thing necessarily to be right now. So I'll similarly to you, Tony, I think 24-21 is a really good score. I think it's going to be a 1-score game, and probably the line is a little too much though right now.
The real question is, which defender is Mac Jones going to grab their dick and twist?
Micah,
he did Sauce Gardner
right?
last week, and like if you do that to Micah Parsons, you don't leave the field, right? Like,
Yeah,
you die.
Yeah, maybe he shouldn't do it to him, but
not that Micah Parsons doesn't have a history of his own of touching people in inappropriate places.
That is fair,
but
well.
it just,
what a weird
Mac Jones, what a piece of shit.
He sucks.
He's gonna get that coming to him at some point.
He really does suck a lot. It's kind of it makes it really hard to want him to be good, because like he just sucks kind of. But moving on to the Rams Colts, this is interesting because Anthony Richardson is playing football, so I'm going to watch it. That's kind of my reasoning for that one, guys.
And Puka's on track to break every single rookie reception record that exists.
Yeah, I mean the Rams are fun whenever they're not turning the ball over, which they've done the last 2 games. So it's kind of we'll see how they look offensively, but this is just a game that we get to see Anthony Richardson come back and play. You know, Gardner Minshew, good for you, got a win. Didn't look particularly good in the win, honestly. He kind of was very much Gardner Minshew in the sense of like, I'm going to just throw short passes and then throw a couple prayers and see if they work out. It's kind of what his game is, which is fine. It was
if you're a backup who can be asked to come in and win games,
that's
right?
You're perfectly suited for that. Yeah, he's perfectly suited for that, right? Like I'm sure the Bengals would have liked to have him as the backup right now, right? Because he could at least do some of the short passing stuff we're doing anyway.
Or New York.
Yeah, well, really anybody that's dealing with quarterback issues like that. But again, I Richardson playing, I'm gonna watch it. It's been fun when he was out there. Just hope he can stay healthy and not get his head caved in at all anymore this year. Basically, what do you think, Tony?
Yeah, I think it's another big Puka Nacua game going against his zone defense. This is where he shines. He just finds the spot and sits in it. And
I hope so, because he's my receiver in fantasy right now. So
I think you're in for another good week then, or a rebound week, because last week wasn't. It was his worst week of his career. It was probably still really good.
5 for 72, I think. 5 for 72. Yeah. So.
And then, like you said, I'm super excited that we get to watch Anthony Richardson play football again. Happy it was just a short 1 week absence. Hopefully he kind of learns more about protecting himself from that, and we get to see more and more of him. I think it'll be a fun game, but the Rams, I do think, are just a better team, more experienced offense. I think Stafford and Puka Nacua are going to eat up, and then they're going to welcome Cooper Kupp back next week with open arms. But give me the Rams 23-20. No, 23-17. Yeah, I like that.
All right, what do you think, Zach?
Yeah, I don't understand how Shayne Steichen, and hopefully we see it this week, has not drilled into Anthony Richardson's head like, hey, please either go out of bounds or get down after having
It's
Jalen
hard
Hurts.
to tell a
You
guy
can
with that.
say it all you want. It doesn't mean
It's
the player's going to take
a
it. Look at
dude,
Josh Allen. Like
yeah,
they've been telling him
a
that for
guy like
years.
that knows like I'm the biggest, fastest, strongest guy on the field a lot of the time.
Well,
especially
yeah,
when
but I
things
guess
are big.
conversely,
Yeah,
he had that with Jalen Hurts, and like there's never been a point that when I've watched Hurts play where I'm like he's endangering himself, because he has a very different attitude to that, even though he is a very heavy rushing quarterback. Like he knows how to do it, and he's the biggest, fastest dude on the field when he's playing. So like I just don't understand, like when you've had it before, I guess you got to figure out whatever it is that you had with.
I don't think the coach has any say in the matter.
he does. No,
yeah.
this is very much a player has to get it
Well,
into his head of
it's
doing
terrifying because hopefully he learned something, because it's Aaron Donald this week, and we said something about Micah Parsons earlier. Yeah, no, you don't challenge that. Don't.
Yeah, I mean,
Just
I'm not
get
worried
out.
about Donald if he gets out of the pocket. I'm worried about it in the pocket, where I think that that's where you have to be careful there. But I think that I'm not super worried about. But
Yeah.
we have for a score there.
Rams win 24-13. The Indianapolis has been fun, but I definitely think there's going to be some sort of like reel back aspect after taking that injury that it's going to affect his play somehow. Like it's not going to be sustainable, like you said.
Gotcha. I'm going to say 27-21. I think there's could be some decent offensive performance in this game. Obviously, neither defense is spectacular by any means. Rams defense has played better than we would expect based on the talent level outside of Donald, so good for them. But I think both teams could get a couple touchdowns on the board here, but going to still take the Rams there. Commanders Eagles. Sam Howell.
Bad week.
Yeah, Sam Howell really had a blow up week against the Bills. Granted, it's the Bills, and they had a really good game plan for him. Things looked very fast for him, and they were, and kind of paid the price on that. I don't expect that to be a weekly thing or anything like that. I think Howell is going to more even out from that. I think he's probably not quite at the level he was playing at the first two games, but also not 4 interceptions bad necessarily. There's like a plateau I think that he could reach there. Eagles are a tough matchup though, right? This is a tough team to play defensively right now. The offense still is trying to get things figured out to a certain degree, but they've still been good enough to obviously start 3-0. So what do you think for this one, Tom?
Yeah, I think that we're going to see more of the Sam Howell we saw last week.
Against a defense like this, I would be not surprised.
I know Sam Howell had a very fun first 2 weeks. He looked pretty much the same in the Bills game. The difference was the defense. And so he played the Cardinals and he played the Broncos. 2 defenses we have proven out to be a little soft.
Not so good.
Yeah. And he looked all right. He looked exciting. He had moments, but he didn't look perfect. And then he played the Bills, and all of the same stuff, staring down receivers, not feeling the pass rushers bearing down in the pocket. All of that stuff happened. It's just that the Bills defense was making it happen often. And so Sam Howell, he's susceptible to that anytime he plays a defensive line worth a damn. And so the Eagles have a damn good defensive line. They're going to do the same exact thing. I expect the Eagles to win 35-7. I think the Commanders, I don't know. Their defense was really impressive because they made things hard on Buffalo. Like the final score is not indicative of how hard that game was for a lot of it. Right. But their offense, I don't have much confidence in at all. 35-7. I think the Eagles just boat race them.
What do you think, Zach?
This is tough because they played the Eagles very well. I had less confidence. I had less confidence in the Commanders' offense last season, and they were the first team to beat the Eagles. And they played them both. They played both games fairly well. I can't imagine a 35-7, like something that wide. I also don't think that they're going to have that great of a week again. Just again, the difference of going against it's his 5th game. It would be because he played. Yeah, because he played Dallas the end of last year. Yeah. So what? This is really, I mean, you had Dallas in week 18, which whatever that was, and then the first 2 weeks against the suspect teams, you're going up against like 2 your like toughest matchups so far in your career. Yeah, growing pains. But I do think there's like I going 2-2 to start the season for Washington is and losing and those losses being the Bills and the Eagles. probably best case scenario right now. If you were anybody on Washington, anybody in, and that they do have a chance to upset the Eagles. It's just going to take a lot of disciplined, clean football, and that has to be the focus.
Yeah. What was your score, Zach, that you wanted to give for that?
I'd make it a little closer because the Eagles are still having issues with their offense. And Washington's defense is, I mean, they're not playing awful, but when you get thrown onto the field so many times like they did last week, it's gonna start to implode.
Yeah,
eventually.
they created.
Yeah, when you throw 4 interceptions. But yeah, so I'll say 27-20 Philadelphia.
So I think for me, and you kind of touched on it, Tony, how he just isn't ready to face defenses like this at this point in his career, and he didn't speed up his processor against the Bills when the pressure was coming in, and when you don't do that, you do throw into coverage because you're just trying to. You're like, okay, I'm going to throw the same balls I've been throwing the last 2 weeks, and they weren't there this time, right? The defense expected it; they knew where he was going to try to go with it, and I expect the Eagles to do a lot of the same thing. I think it'll be slightly more of a game, just because again, I don't think the Eagles' offense is quite at the level the Bills are playing at right now offensively, even though it's still nothing like truly spectacular, but still they did enough against the Commanders. I'm going to say 28-17, similar to Zach's score, but I don't think the Commanders get 20 points in this game. Really
I just can't imagine he throws 4 interceptions.
He doesn't have to. Though,
I don't think he's going to do that
game.
again.
It's just that I think it's going to be hard to get consistent offense.
He is on pace to shatter the sacks taken in a season record that David Carr set back in his first year. And
what was it, like 76 or something, right?
It's something absurd.
Something
but
like
I think he. At least 5 sacks. At least 5 sacks this
I think that's probably fair to say. Yeah. Bucs Saints. The Jameis Winston Bowl, right?
No. It's not the Jameis Winston Bowl. What are you talking about? This is the Mike Evans, Marshawn Lattimore Bowl.
Listen, and the Michael Thomas Carlton Davis Bowl.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of one-to-one.
That one I don't know, but
they've got history too.
Okay,
let me make sure it's Carlton Davis. I know Michael Thomas has gotten kicked out of a few of these games for fighting as well.
Yeah, well, so literally, there has not been a game where, at least the last 3, where Mike Evans and Marshawn Lattimore have not engaged in some sort of actual back and forth pushing fight and gotten to a brawl and both gotten kicked out. It's obscene.
It's a yearly thing. It's great. It's
last year's was even better because there was zero. Mike Evans was off the field, and Lattimore got into it with Brady and Fournette, and he comes sprinting onto the field to go give Lattimore the hand of justice, and it's just yo, come on, man, you're just doing too much.
If it wasn't for the fact that you obviously don't want to get kicked out of a game, I would believe that it's a bit at this point because it's so ridiculous, right? It's how do you
and they do it anyways?
Yeah, how do you keep doing this? At some point, you got to just stop doing it.
And do you know what it comes down to? What? Is the reason it happens is because nobody locks down Mike Evans better than Marshawn Lattimore.
Especially recently, the last few years.
Nobody owns Mike Evans better than Marshawn Lattimore. And I guarantee you the entire game, Lattimore is jawing his ass off the entire game. And he just has enough of it and is just no, I'm done. I'm tired of this. It's it. Hands are thrown. That's the only reason why I can think of it, because I don't think they had any sort of crossover in college. There's nothing else. It's literally just NFC South bad blood. That's it.
Yeah, fair enough. What do you think, Tony?
So I did do some research. So it hasn't gone to the level of the Marshawn Lattimore, Mike Evans fist fights that we've seen, but there is very bad blood between Michael Thomas and Carlton Davis. So that's 2 potential fist fights in this game. Very exciting. I think there's going to be more fist fights than highlights. But I do think I don't know if I've picked a single underdog to win outright yet, which feels kind of gross this deep into the show for me. So
Cardinals.
I am going to go. Oh yeah,
you picked the Cardinals.
Thank you. All right, so
I'll
get my second on the board here. Yeah, I'll get my second one on the board here. I think the Bucs can win it. I think we get a bit of Jameis doing a lot. Because when we've seen Jameis be successful in New Orleans, it was with Sean Payton kind of reeling him in, and now he doesn't have that, and I think we're going to get glory Jameis. We're going to get 30-30 Jameis, and the
Listen.
Bucks are gonna. The Bucks are familiar with that, Jameis. They have good linebackers.
We haven't seen 30-30 Jameis since he got his LASIK.
True. Oh yeah. So now that he's got eyes, we can. But I think it's gonna be a fun game. Very much. I expect some fights. I don't expect a ton of points, but I expect it to be like fun. So give me the Bucks. 17-13. I don't think it's going to be high scoring.
Oh yeah, fun. All right, Zach, what do you got? I have couple things to say about this game.
I think there's one other thing we are also forgetting to mention about this game. Despite not having Derek Carr, the Saints get a massive boon of talent back with Alvin Kamara coming back this week, which they need. They need somebody carrying the rock, and hopefully, because they have decided not to do this stupid Ian Book, whoever they threw in last year because Jameis was hurt and Taysom Hill thing, that they will actually let Alvin Kamara rush the ball, because whenever they give him carries, he excels. And I'm tired of them just forgetting like they have a Pro Bowl, all-pro running back on their roster that can do so much to do. My bigger thing is I definitely think Baker Mayfield's going to struggle against the Saints, as pretty much every team has struggled against the Saints defense. And the addition of Alvin Kamara, Jameis Winston's going to do a thing. I think they're able to squeak out just enough. So 20-17 Saints.
Yeah, it's totally fair. So for me, honestly, Jameis Winston, the one thing we know about him is he's going to sling that rock, right? We know this. And I just feel like it's going to be, like you said, Tony, a classic Jameis Winston masterclass.
Has he gotten to play with Michael Thomas ever?
I don't know how he would, because how many games has he played?
Yeah, probably not.
That's a very interesting line also.
Listen, I already know there's going to be at least 2 Chris Olave's down there somewhere throws, and one of them is probably going to work and one of them is not, right? Like that's kind of going to be how it is for him. And honestly, I'm here for it. But I do think the Bucks are going to win this game. I'm going with you, Tony, as well. I actually do think. And when I did the Around the Book podcast, one of my bets was Bucks money line for this week. That's one of the ones I said to do. So, honestly, I think Tony, can you hear us at all?
Yeah, sorry. Okay, I was hearing commotion downstairs in my house, and
I just wanted to make sure that, because you were taking them out, I was like, I don't know if you, but no, I'm going to go with you on the money line for the Bucks. Like that's what I did for one of my bets. I'm going to stick with it. I do think it's going to be a low scoring game, though. I think it's going to come down to just the defenses kind of beating the crap out of these offenses, and I think the Bucks, I'll just give them a slight edge just because Jameis Winston is, as much as Mayfield also can throw you a couple. I think Winston's more.
Oh yeah, he's liable.
Than anybody else. Yeah. So yeah, I'll say 2017, similar score as Zach there, just Bucks instead. Moving to the Falcons-Jaguars in the great city of London, 9:30 in the morning.
Wembley Stadium.
I will tell you that there is a 50% chance that I'll be awake and 50% chance I will not be. So we'll see. But
there is a 0% chance I'll be awake because I will be getting off of work at 6 a.m. and I need to go to sleep to watch football for the rest of the day.
Right. So you can catch that one later on. But
exactly.
Falcons Jaguars. The Jaguars have had a rough start to the year, and a lot of it for me has to do with their pass rushing situation not being very good, and Trevor Lawrence getting both unlucky and also not being quite as sharp as he was at the end of last year. It's kind of a combination of both things for me. I'm still trying to get used to the new offensive pieces, especially Ridley, obviously being the main one. It's been a tough start, and the Falcons, whenever they can run the ball, they're really good. When they can't, not so much. That's kind of the book on them, but that's what we knew anyway. So I don't really know if we don't know anything more or less about that team. I'll kick it over to you, Tony. What do you think with this one?
Just like last week, the Falcons are so really the past 2 weeks, because the Falcons played the Packers and the Lions, 2 teams I thought would be like good litmus tests for them because I was high on the Falcons coming in, and they have thrown all the water on that. I don't feel very great about them anymore, just because. And I think I've said this on the show before, I assumed that the Desmond Ritter, rolling with Desmond Ritter meant that he was capable of doing like B- Ryan Tannehill stuff. I didn't realize they just were intent on not throwing the football, and that's why Desmond Ritter's their quarterback. So their offense
kind of makes that move or that decision not to attempt to trade for Lamar Jackson kind of crazy.
Yeah, I do think a lot of that was just that they knew they weren't going to get him. So they didn't want to publicly do it, but they should have publicly done it. Like it hurting Desmond Ritter's confidence shouldn't have been such a big concern.
At least don't.
If you're leaning into running the ball anyway, Getting a quarterback that can do that better than anybody else would have been smart.
It would have been a good idea for them to get involved in that sweepstakes, as fake as it may have been. But so I think that they're a team that is going to beat up on bad teams. I think they're a team that is going to hang around good but flawed teams, and I think the Jags fall into that category. So I do think the Falcons' rushing offense against a defense that hasn't really been all that good, they'll be able to hang around. The Jags' offense has to turn it on at some point. Yeah. I wasn't tuned in for the portion where you talked about it last week. Don't know if you brought it up, but I called that game the game where Press Taylor needs to, or like Doug Peterson needs to realize that he needs to take back play calling from Press Taylor. That is still a request I have, because the offense doesn't look as flowy as it used to. I guess that's a bad word to use there, but it just doesn't look like Press Taylor knows what buttons to press, and then Trevor Lawrence is getting no help from his guys. I think they put it together enough to win this game, but I do think it's kind of close. So I'll do like 2017. That feels like a good score.
For Jags winning, you said, right?
Yes, Jags winning. Sorry, did not make that clear. Gotcha. Yes, Jags
winning. I thought so, but go ahead, Zach.
Yeah, I think it's important to note that the Jaguars are very used to this trip. They do it every year. They will be not only making their 10th and 11th trip, by far the most. The next team actually is the Dolphins, who have made 5 trips to England.
Although the Jags don't have to make 2 trips, they're staying there and playing the Bills in Tottenham Hotspur Stadium.
So I was going to say, though, they will be the first team to play 2 international games in one season. It has never happened before. There's not really all that much like history for it to have happened before. But and it's very interesting. They were talking about how like they've been mulling around the idea of not like moving the Jags there like permanently, but the idea of putting a permanent team in England, which is insane, but I'm not surprised. Eventually it's going to end up coming around. So it's kind of cool, a little different. I think the aspect they're doing with Disney this week is also really cool with the Toy Story game.
That's so cool.
It's really awesome. And it's something that I talked about a couple weeks ago in the ATB chat, how streaming is going to 100% take, like football's not going to be on cable in a couple of years. It's going to be 100% streamed. Anyways, with all of that out of the way, just a little fun little tidbits. I definitely agree. Jags need to turn it on, and I think that they have the ability to turn it on against a team that can only run the ball. That plays well in the fact they don't have a pass rush, but you don't really have to worry if you don't have a pass rush against a team that can't pass. So either we're gonna see the Jags get to the quarterback, or Desmond Ridder might have himself a day. But I the latter does not really seem like it's going to happen. So I'm going to take the Jaguars. I'll say 23-14.
Fair. So with the Falcons, and obviously it's too early for me to definitively say this, but this is exactly what I was kind of worried about being the case with them. And it's more so that they don't seem to both trust Ridder, and also Ridder doesn't seem ready to give them any reason to trust him in the passing game, right? That's just kind of what it is right now. I honestly think this team would be a better football team if Taylor Heineke was starting right now. I'll be honest with you.
Completely agree.
And it's not even that it's would be a huge difference. It's just there'd be a little bit more functioning to the passing offense right now. I think that's kind of what it is. But I'm going to give the Jags benefit of the doubt in London. 24-17 is what my score is going to be. Steelers Texans. I had to throw this in interesting for me because I'm very confident against a rookie quarterback with the Steelers. Mike Tomlin's done very, very well in his career against rookie quarterbacks. But CJ Stroud through 3 games does not look like a rookie quarterback in very specific and concerning ways for my team. Mostly the fact that on third downs, he's the best quarterback in the sport right now, statistically, if you guys didn't know that. Legitimately the best quarterback in the NFL on third downs in multiple different metrics that you would want to look at. I believe he has the most first downs thrown for through 3 games, I believe it is. I know pass rating is a very imperfect metric, but it's the highest in the league at 125.6 or something like that. Just incredible numbers on the most important down in the sport through 3 games as a rookie is definitely something I'm not excited about as a team that can't score points really, right? I don't expect them to blow up offensively or anything like that against the Steelers defense. I think with the offensive line issues, which if you're talking about offensive line issues, the Texans have 4 out of 5 starters out right now.
Yeah.
I think. Kendrick Green, I think, is starting for them, which thank you for that.
You're familiar there.
Yeah, a little bit. Ultimately, I think that, and I'll give my score after I let you guys talk, but I think the Steelers can get it done on the road because they're just still a better team overall, in my opinion. But I'm much more concerned about this game than I was going into the year. So, what do you think, Tony?
Yeah, the Texans have the better quarterback.
Right now, for sure, absolutely.
Yeah, C.J. Stroud, one of the most impressive rookie quarterbacks in recent memory. He everything we saw in the Georgia game, we've seen in the NFL, and
Yes,
that was a big question coming in. Super cool to see that.
Absolutely.
I do think that where last week the injured offensive line wasn't an issue against the Jags' lack of pass rush, that is a completely different story against this Steelers defensive line, and that will be the story of the game. I'm going to say the Steelers win this one 14-10, and I don't think it's an unentertaining 14-10. I think if you admire defensive football, I think this is a game you should have on one of your TVs because it's going to be a dogfight. It's going to be real fun to watch for defensive football, and the Steelers eke out one just with experience on their end.
What do you think, Zach?
I hate to do this to you, Shayne.
I know. Yeah, I already
No. You have no idea what I'm about to say.
Oh boy. Okay.
The Steelers are going to win,
Okay.
but you're not going to score a touchdown.
I can see that.
It's going to be like one of those awful like 15-10, 18-10 games where Boswell goes out there and kicks
MVP.
5 to 6 field goals to win this game. Because like we said, like Jacksonville and like some of these other teams that Houston has played, like they have a bit more offensive cohesion than Houston does. And I have not. I mean, even the Indianapolis game, like Anthony Richardson and the Colts look like they have much more offensive cohesion and momentum than the Steelers do right now. Last week was cool, but it was also the Raiders. Like Houston's not playing like the Raiders. They're playing much better than the Raiders. So I'm a bit it's going to be the sweatiest of all sweats. Like it's going to be like, you know what? I'm going to say 18-15. And what's going to happen is it's going to be 15-7. And the Texans are going to score a touchdown, get a 2-point conversion, and the Steelers are going to go down and kick a field goal and win the game. 18-15.
That's fun. So I'll give my prediction I've been giving on all of my multiple shows I've done this week on the lead up into this game. 24-20. And that's factoring in, I think there's going to be a defensive touchdown for Pittsburgh again. I think they're going to do it again in 2 out of 4 games so far. Here's the end all be all of this game, though, before we get into our last couple here. The Steelers offense is capped by its play calling to a point where it does not really matter how good the players play. Even last week, whenever Pickett was mostly very good outside of a couple of plays, and the pass rush was getting to him, and it didn't necessarily destroy the game plan like it had the previous 2 weeks. Canada calls plays in a way where you have to be perfect to score 24 points, right? That's the main problem here. Is like there's no real outside of the shot plays to like Austin last week, and then the wide open slant essentially post to Pickens that he ran for 70 yards for a touchdown. Outside of that, there's no explosiveness element to this passing game or to the running game because they're not interested in doing that, right? It's just not what Canada wants to do. So I don't see them scoring more than 20 points naturally very often this year, so it's probably going to take a touchdown. But I do believe that they can beat the Texans on the road, so I had to factor that in somehow. So I'll take 24-20 via some weird, TJ Watt-inspired probably touchdown somehow. Or hopefully Minka, maybe, right? Because teams have not had to challenge Minka this year because they're like, oh, Levi Wallace is whoever's guarding whoever Levi Wallace is guarding is open by 17 yards. So let's just throw it to him instead. But hopefully maybe one time this game Stroud decides to challenge Minka and it doesn't go well. That's all I can really hope for.
And I feel like they'll be creative with Minka too, like put him in places where Stroud shouldn't expect him to be, so that like force a rookie mistake kind of thing.
He's basically just being the tackle leader for this team because nobody else wants to. It's basically how it's been through 3 games. But let's get into the must-watch games and
the best one.
Yeah, let's start with the best one, right? Let's just get that out of the way. Dolphins-Bills. What a colossal freaking game this early in the season. Like, there's so much that I want to know about both of these teams, and we should find out a lot of things about both these teams in this game, theoretically. And, I mean, we don't even need to really touch on it too much because it's already been beat to death, but the Dolphins scored 70 freaking points last week, guys. Like that.
And a 70-point team.
Exactly. There's a reason why that's his headline down there if you guys are watching. Like, band fast players. the Dolphins have seemingly cracked some sort of code in the NFL for scoring and playing offense. That was basically this whole time. Madden's been right, guys. Speed's all that matters. That's what it seems like, right? Like it's just get all the fast guys and throw them around and do shit. Like,
Not when all of your fast guys
right?
then go on the IR, but
Well, I mean, yeah,
that's a story for a different day.
right. But again, like that seems like what I mean. It's obviously not what he's doing technically, but there's an element of that, right? So let's move to Tony. What do you think about this matchup as a team that has to deal with the team that just put up 70 points offensively?
Man, let me tell you, this is why we are football fans. This game is
Yes.
going to be so damn cool.
Oh yeah, no matter what.
Outright, I do expect the Bills to lose this game. And all of that comes down to just think they're in two incredible teams, two very well coached offenses, well schemed up offenses, two quarterbacks playing at very high level skill groups. Obviously, the Dolphins have a much better skill group, but Buffalo's skill group isn't anything to turn your head at either. Defensively, they're both capable of throwing punches, getting wins, but also this is going to be an offensive game. The reason that I think the Dolphins pull this one out is just it's going to come down to an end of game scenario, right? Like it's anticipate this one's going to be close, and the Bills' offense is figuring itself out, right? They're finding themselves. I like the path that they're on. The short game is starting to really work. The run game is popping off the best it ever has. Offensive line's playing the best it's ever have. Like they're starting to feel things out, figure things out. I think down the stretch, this offense is going to be like one of the kind of like unstoppable ones. But right now, I don't think it's there. It's not the finished product. The Dolphins, on the other hand, that offense is a finished product. That thing is legit. Mike McDaniel is in his bag as expected. And so I just have a bit more confidence in their offense to get it done in crunch time. So I think that the Dolphins come in and win 27-24. I don't think it's as high scoring. Like I'm on the under. Jalen Phillips, Jordan Poyer, both out. Zig when everyone else is zagging. That's why I'm on the under. But man, just fireworks in this game. Really, really expect fireworks. I expect another 3-point decided game because that's what every game last year was. And I expect to see this game this team two more times after this game too. I love what this rivalry has become. So exciting for football.
All right, Zach, all you. Go ahead.
Yeah, ready for the fourth consecutive highly competitive game between these two teams. I definitely thought the last one wasn't going to be that, but then everybody was pleasantly surprised.
It happened.
Yeah, it happened. And like all I'll say about last week is, I wish they can field goal. That would have been amazing. And like I can kind of understand what they were saying, like, oh, we don't want to take the bad karma, which I don't feel like it's bad karma. Like they literally did things to stop scoring. And when Mike White is throwing 68-yard bombs to Robbie Chosen, like just if you can score. Like who's stopping you? Like
not the Broncos.
Exactly. So yeah, I think the biggest thing for me so far this season and sitting here in week 4, if you had looked at me at the start of the season and told me that even if Terran Armstead hadn't been hurt, that Tua had only gone and taken 1 sack so far, that is insane. And part of it absolutely has to do with what we've said week in, week out, Tua's work over the season. But you know what? I'm finally going to do it. Give your hand to the Miami Dolphins offensive line. They're playing fantastic right now and doing a good job. I'm not going to say that they're the most talented group in the league because that's just ridiculous. But they're playing much better than they've ever been playing in the past couple of years, especially with Tua under center. And that alone makes a massive difference. I've never gone into a Bills game since the Bills have started their AFC East run with this high hopes. I guess maybe last year a little bit because we had the Ravens game the week before and that kind of skewed things. But like genuinely, like Tony was saying, like it got to the point in the past few seasons where I was hoping and praying for a defensive stop from the Dolphins because I knew that's how we were going to win a game. Now I'm like, no. Give them the ball. This is a more lethal offense than Patrick Mahomes. They need less time than Patrick Mahomes. Let's do it. Like what do we need here? So it's wild. It's going to be a fantastic game. And like Tony just said, the fact that this is what this rivalry has become is amazing. And like the Patriots rivalry has stayed with all of the teams in there. The only team left lagging behind is the Jets, and it's what the AFC East could only ask for is all the teams showing up, because after years of being like, oh, it's just the Patriots, it's just the Patriots. Now it's, oh, hey, like the Patriots are pretty good, but man, have you seen the Bills and the Dolphins? Like, man. So yeah, it's just been exciting. It's been thrilling. And if I had to lean, I think it's the first time I'm going to do this. I'm going to pick the Dolphins to win, only because I'm more confident in, like Tony said, with some of the stuff that the Dolphins offense is doing, as opposed to some of the grab bag things that Josh Allen is doing, to where there are still some mistakes that are going on with the Bills offense. 31-24.
So before I let you go, Zach, because I know you have to get out of here in a minute, I want to make sure we get this game in before you go. I will say with the Dolphins in particular, it just kind of feels like I said before, they've cracked some kind of code offensively, right?
It feels too good to be true.
Yeah, because
I mean, I'm being honest.
The offensive line is playing better, but I also don't think it matters much at all necessarily to their success, because he's basically creating an offense where, like, all right, well, they have to block for 2 seconds, 3 seconds well enough, and two already knows where the ball's going because they're going to be open because everybody's fast as shit and nobody can run with anybody. And he's putting Tyreek in this crazy motion that other teams are starting to do, because, like, oh, we can get our fast guy fast before the snap starts. All right, let's do that, right? Like, just the most insane stuff in the running game. Like, they're really honestly, like, essentially a run first team right now because of the game.
Yeah, and you know what?
Things like
before last week, I think that's the biggest difference right now, is that if they can spring blocks in the running game, that's not something they've been able to do. It's been we need somebody like a Jay Ajayi or somebody who's in the next level to take advantage of those tiny holes and just blast through and go for the home run every time, where they're playing within the scheme right now and they're making the holes. That's the biggest difference between last year and this year. You couldn't buy a rushing yard last year.
Right, and like we got to see what that speed at running back with Mostert and is it
Achane?
Achane, that's
yeah,
right.
yeah,
he's like, say my name right.
I'm probably not going to get that right ever again.
No,
but
I didn't. I mean, to be fair, I didn't even know how to pronounce it like when he was drafted. So at least now I'm
the
like
E, man, the silent E's, right? Like, what do we?
I
can't say anything. I have an E in my name.
Anyway. My last name. Let's not talk about silent letters.
Yeah. All of them? Oh, 2 or 3 of them? No,
just the K. But you'd think it was all of them.
No, I know. No. Anyway, ultimately, I'm going to take the Dolphins 31-28. I think what's going to happen with this game is I could see this going either way because of how good both these teams are, but kind of what you're talking about, Tony, like the Bills offense has done a better job of kind of playing within themselves the past 2 games after a rough Josh Allen heave it down the field type of game in week 1.
That's just called Josh Allen playing the Jets.
Exactly, yeah. But I feel like this game could come down to, like, Josh Allen finally deciding, you know what, this Dolphins team is crazy. I'm tired of it. I'm throwing a home run ball, and it either works or it doesn't. That might be honestly the difference in this game is, do they go for a play like that and it doesn't go their way? So I will favor the Dolphins for now, just because I can't really pick against a team that just scored 70 points, right? Despite how bad the Broncos looked while doing so, allowing that. But it's like, if you need to get out of here, Zach, go ahead. We have 2 games left, but we can handle those.
As far as those, I'm going to pick the Ravens and obviously the Broncos. And as we said earlier, man, the Broncos could go crazy on offense.
We'll talk about why they're in the must watch. But definitely have a good time. I know you guys.
Absolutely, I'll see you guys later. You guys have a wonderful day today.
Awesome.
You too.
All right, so let's finish this up here. So we got Browns and Ravens, which again, 2 teams, 2-1. Again, the Ravens had a rough go of it last week, and the Browns did not. It's kind of a middle. They're kind of reaching in the middle here, where both teams are kind of going in different directions. Mostly the Ravens due to injuries, I would say, primarily. Very unfortunate amount of injuries, which that's what the Ravens do. It seems like for some reason, don't really know why they can't,
right there.
Right, can't get out of their own way in that way. But the Browns coming off a absolutely dismantling game against the Titans, where the Steelers are somehow the only team to score an offensive touchdown against them through 3 games, which is hilariously bad in a lot of different ways. But what do you just think overall with this matchup? It's a very interesting one, especially with the Ravens injuries they have dealing with.
Yeah, this it was not on my radar as like oh hey, in week 4 we're gonna decide the AFC North between the Ravens and the Browns, but here we are. It kind of feels that way. So the Browns are playing much better than I expected them to. And it's all on the back of the defense because the offense, frankly, hasn't looked all that good. Like, I know it looked good last week. Deshaun Watson finally kind of looked all right, but he didn't look great. And it's a pass funnel defense that we know is a pass funnel defense. Like, do it against a real defense, and maybe do it against Mike McDonald's defense, and maybe we'll talk about you differently. So the Browns, it's all about defense, and what they're doing defensively is but almost as revolutionary as what the Dolphins offense is doing to start this season. They are running so hot. They're using their defensive line in such fun ways. They're generating pressure. They're getting stops. They're not allowing anybody to do anything on offense except for the Steelers to score that one touchdown. But the Ravens, on the other hand, like you said, they're just so banged up, and it just happens year in, year out. It's so just disheartening to see. Like, you thought that they were turning a page. There's a lot of change coming into this season, and they're kind of the same old Ravens, which just sucks to see. I think the Browns win this one pretty ugly. I don't even know if Deshaun Watson is playing. I saw that he was kind of banged up, and then I never followed up to check on that.
I'm pretty sure that he is at this point expected to play, but again, how much does that matter when you're talking about the Browns right now?
Give me like 18 to 14, something funky. Something funky is going to happen in this game. Maybe a kick six like in Browns Ravens games of the past.
For sure. Yeah.
But yeah, so I will take Cleveland 18 to 14 just because of the injuries on Baltimore's end. Like, all their receivers are banged up. Their offensive line, defense is banged up. So yeah, Browns.
Yeah, it's just, I will start with the fact it is really unfortunate to see the Ravens deal with this. And I understand, like, I'm a Steelers fan, so I can't feel too bad about it. But, like, even I want to see what this team can do. Because they go out and they get Odell Beckham Jr., who, again, we didn't know what to expect from him, but they, at least there's something that the past game you're hoping for a healthy Rashad Bateman season. Of course, it hasn't been so far. And then Zay Flowers has been mostly as advertised, if not even more so. It's just,
if
again,
they used him.
Right. It's just, again, like, with him being the only receiver on the team, essentially, right now, you're kind of back to playing not the same type of offense, but like you're playing the same type of personnel right now a lot of the time, because Nelson Aguilar, who honestly has looked pretty good for them, but like he's your receiver 2 right now. Like he was supposed to be receiver 4. That's tough. Obviously you still have Andrews out there. It's just the running backs for this team. They just don't play.
So injured.
They don't play games. And it's just like at some point, like if they want to win, Lamar's going to have to play hero ball. Right. And he's totally capable of doing, but against this defense that I think is capable of reining him in just because of how many athletes and how many guys they're throwing at you defensively right now, it's just going to be hard for him to kind of force his way into a win. And we saw even last week, they couldn't pull it off against the Colts for a multitude of reasons, but it's just, I can't pick them right now with all the injuries with the way the Browns are playing, right? You kind of have to give them the benefit of the doubt. I think the Browns can put up, I'll say 20 to 14, like similar score to you. I think that the Browns don't have to do a whole lot in this game probably because, again, Lamar will have a couple highlights, probably how they get those touchdowns, but it's just going to be tough against that Browns defense, right? Like that's what it comes down to. And then I have the Broncos Bears as must watch because this is my first. This is my first of what will probably be many throughout the season of the toilet bowl games of the week. The absolute hopelessness that both teams are feeling right now for different reasons is honestly just you have to see what they do, right? How do they respond? I think the Broncos are definitely a better football team. I think that their defense is certainly not playing very well, to say the least. Getting exposed against the Dolphins and not really doing much against anybody else either through 3 games. But the Bears are uniquely bad right now. And I've said it before on the show, and I'll continue to talk about it. If you haven't seen JT O'Sullivan's breakdowns of the Bears offense for the first 2 weeks of the season, please go watch them. It is 2.5 hours of pure hilariousness as far as football scheming goes. Him just ripping them apart in every way, shape, and form. Talking about how, yes, Justin Fields isn't playing very well, but also it might be literally impossible for anyone to do so anyway because of how bad they are scheming these guys up and what they're doing. It's just all around terrible, and I don't think it's going to change even against a kind of bad Broncos team. I think they're going to be more successful offensively by default, but how much more is up for debate when you're already just really bad, kind of what the Steelers are going through, but for different reasons, honestly, than even what the Bears are dealing with. What do you think here?
Yeah, I think this is a must-watch, and I said it in the pre-show, and I don't actually believe they can score 70 points, but like I jokingly said, they're the first team to ever have 70 scored on them and then turn around and score 70 the next week. I think that the Broncos have kind of been a good team despite their record so far this season.
They're certainly not 0-3 bad, I don't think. Despite
and they're not negative 50 point differential in one game bad either.
No. They got caught with their pants down in that game, basically.
Because if you think about that game, Miami was going to score a touchdown every chance given to them. That much was clear. But the short fields they gave them, the offensive turnovers, those were fluky. Like Cortland Sutton fumbling twice in one game. Wide receivers don't fumble all that much.
No,
that doesn't happen all that often.
Unless you're the Vikings, they've been fumbling 3 times a game, but that's beside the point.
Okay, yeah. Vikings are going to Viking. Chargers are going to Charger, but we're talking normal teams here.
Right, exactly. Not
but So I think I still think the Broncos offense has been good.
Overall,
I think it has just genuinely been a good offense, a good schemed up offense. I think Russell Wilson has looked perfectly all right. I think they need to work in Marvin Mims more because he's been really incredible for them and they're intent on giving him 6 routes a game. But overall, I just think this is a team that really wants to wash off the stink of last week. They know that they're a better team, and I think we're going to see I think 45-17. I think they really come out and empty the clip on them, and the Bears just have no ability to defend themselves in a situation like that. So
the Bears, man,
give me 45-17.
Right, they're just so unbelievably bad, and it's one of those things where people who were hesitant to say that Justin Fields is going to make a huge improvement this year, I totally understood that because it was the first year after an awful season. They didn't do a whole lot more to change things outside of bringing DJ Moore, and they obviously drafted the tackle, right? But clearly this staff they've put together just clearly isn't it, right? Across the board. Eberflus has done nothing to elevate this defense. The additions they've made have made virtually no impact, despite there being no reason for that really being the case. And Luke Getsy is not a play caller in the NFL, right? Like outside of Canada right now, is there someone who's done a worse job in the NFL through 3 games? I don't think so.
Not a chance.
Just from a schematic standpoint, right? And it's just tough to watch because it feels like, and one of the biggest problems for them right now is it feels like they're trying to convince Justin Fields to not be who he is at his core as an NFL player at this point, which is a running quarterback that can make big plays down the field in the passing game when they're open. Those are 2 things that he's shown the ability to do. And they don't really want to do either one right now. And I can't figure out for the life of me why. This could be a functional offense in some regard if they leaned into their strengths, especially his strengths. But they want to change him without him being ready to do that. And I think that's part of the reason why it's been this comically bad. I think if they leaned into his running ability more and they did try to get DJ Moore and other guys down the field a little bit more, there'd be more potential for offensive success. But at the end of the day, Fields can't do the things they're asking him to do, and even if he did, the offense is still not good, right? That's kind of what it comes down to. There's really not a lot of room for improvement based on how they've played. I just think that they're doing a lot of things incorrectly with him and with the offense in general, regardless of how good or bad he's playing.
So I agree with that they aren't catering themselves to Fields' skill set, but I also think that they're justified in that. At the end of the day, this is a regime that didn't draft Justin Fields. They came in the next year, and there were conversations immediately about do they even like this kid? And we still haven't seen many votes of confidence. Trading out a first overall and not taking Bryce Young or CJ Stroud or Anthony Richardson, that's a slight vote of confidence. But in reality, it was a gear up for next year so we can move on kind of thing. And if Justin Fields is worth keeping. The Justin Fields that is worth keeping around is a passing Justin Fields, right? You're not going to designing the offense around Justin Fields and his ability to run right now and his deficiencies in the passing game right now. Yeah, you could get more productive offense, but you don't have long-term path to success, right? You're not turning Justin Fields into a quarterback if you do that. Justin Fields needs to do the damn thing and turn into a quarterback. He needs to learn how to read the field. He needs to speed up his progressions. He needs to do all of these things that they're forcing him to do. And they're not leaning into the run game, which maybe if you get him in rhythm more, he can start to figure those things out. But at the end of the day, this kid needs to learn how to pass the damn football in the NFL. And
yeah,
building an offense around his skill set right now would be counterintuitive to that. So they don't have any ties to him, and they're staring down the barrel at the first overall pick, whether it's theirs or the Panthers. And I think that the right thing to do is either try to turn Justin Fields. So yeah, they should try to turn Justin Fields into a passer like they are, because either it works and you have a quarterback, or it doesn't work and you draft Caleb Williams. But at least you know. If you build it around his rushing ability, then you might be able to talk yourselves into another year of him, and nobody wants that if it's not through the passing game. So right. I kind of agree with their approach of turn him into a passer or get him gone.
Right. I should be clear that, like, when I say that about it, it's that for me, it's telling me that they don't care about this season going well. They care about, like you said, proving to themselves and to Justin Fields whether he's the guy as a passer. I think it's totally reasonable to do that. I will say, though, I don't think they're doing a good job of making him a passer either. So it's kind of like this idea of like they're not doing anything to help him become a passer. But if they don't do that, then it doesn't help them make any decisions next year. Because this season, if they wanted to try to be competitive, the only way they're going to do that is to lean on the things he does well, right? Like you said. The problem is then you don't learn anything about him. So it's the idea of like they're essentially, and this is part of, I think, the reason why I really think Eberflus has to be gone after this year, and I think that Getsy has to be gone, is that they're punting on the year if they continue to do this, right? They are essentially saying, hey, we're going to let Justin Fields go out there and continue to play bad because we need to see if he can ever play good. And I don't think he's going to, even if he started to pick up on some of the things they want him to do, this offense is still going to be bad with the way it's being called. So I think this needs to be a clean house situation, coaching wise. Bring somebody in, preferably in the case if you're going to draft a rookie quarterback, probably an offensive minded coach, ideally, if you're going to bring in a quarterback right away. And see if you can figure out an offense that's going to work for whoever the quarterback ends up being. Right? That's ultimately what I think is going to happen here, and we'll just have to see how that shakes out. Like you said, they're going to have technically maybe 2 shots at the first overall pick. With the Cardinals playing much better than we expect, and with the Texans also looking better, like now it might be the Bears actually that has a chance to kind of to be up in that top couple spots instead of those 2 teams. So we'll see how it goes. But I'm going to say, like you said, 45-17.
Yeah, that was my score.
That'd be funny, but I'm gonna say.
Wait, 30. Can I actually?
Yeah, go ahead.
Can I fix mine?
Yeah, sure.
Just because of the hilarity of it all. 53-3. I want them to have a 50-point differential.
That'd be cool.
Yeah, 53-3.
All right, yeah. If you're gonna do that, I'm gonna say I'll be on the little bit more realistic side just to balance it out. I'll say 35-14. That's what
that feels better, but 53-3 is more fun.
Oh yeah, but yeah, that'll do it for us this week. We'll be back next week with talking about how these games go, because a lot of these games are going to be very important to kind of how we feel about these teams moving forward. So we'll talk about that, and of course we'll preview all the games for next week in Week 5. But everyone enjoy college football today. I have some games I'm going to be definitely watching for, some bets that
Colorado USC.
Yeah, I will. So that's the one I made. One of my bets with around the book was that Colorado covers because USC can't play defense. That's ultimately what it comes down to me. Like, I think that as long as they continue to employ Alex Grinch as defensive coordinator, USC will never be a true title contender because the defense will eventually fail them, no matter how good Caleb Williams might be. I think it'll be like a close game, no, but 21.5 points, a lot of points to give up when you just lost or won only by 14 to Arizona State the week before. So we'll see how that game goes. I think that USC's already scored a couple times, so we'll see if I win that bet. Oh, wow. Yeah, that'll be it for us this week, guys, though. Definitely catch us next week when, again, hopefully all of us will be around to talk about, especially the Dolphins-Bills game. Definitely looking forward to watching that tomorrow. So, all right, we'll see you guys later.